Joey Porter, former Super Bowl winning linebacker for my Pittsburgh Steelers, has some interesting things to say about Ben Roethlisberger on Cam Heyward's podcast. He said he wasn't a good teammate, he's not a good person, and has no right to talk about the Steelers' business on his podcast. Um, Ben Roethlisberger on his podcast had made some comments about the Steelers' former head coach Mike Tomlin. Uh, I will watch the podcast periodically, just because Steelers is my favorite team, and Ben Roethlisberger, I witnessed his entire career, so I would value his input on what he thought about the current state of the Steelers, but it kind of rubbed me the wrong way as well, when I saw that Ben Roethlisberger, it just seemed like he would take little digs at Mike Tomlin in a weird way. And for whatever reason, while the season was still going on, he literally said that the Pittsburgh Steelers should look into moving past Mike Tomlin as their head coach. And I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And he was like, he got a lot of love and respect for Mike Tomlin. Like he tried to clear it up with all the little PR or whatever, but it's like, nah, bruh, you basically saying, Steelers need to fire Mike Tomlin. But he also said he could, during this time, he was basically saying that Mike Tomlin would be a great college coach and he would get a job wherever. And it just makes you wonder how much Mike Tomlin had to deal with being the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach, because when he ended up retiring abruptly at the end of the season, or stepping down from the Steelers, people still thought, oh, he might get into coaching elsewhere. But he didn't do a press conference and he hasn't said anything. He just has, vanished from the shadows. And now there's like a domino effect of different parties from the Steelers just saying different things about not only Mike Tomlin, but their tenure under Ben Roethlisberger. In the comment section of the video, Steeler players like Mason Rudolph and other people were, giving comments basically praising Joey Porter for calling out Ben and basically saying Ben had no right to say anything. And it was always spoke about during Ben's career that a lot of things got covered up about him being, um, in his earlier stages of his career. He did some things behind the scenes with taking advantage of women in ways that, were against their will. And it got covered up. And, the Steelers and Mike Tomlin especially, they never spoke on it and they covered for him. And Mike Tomlin never said anything about being publicly. And he always, put him in high regard. And what's even more crazy, Mike Tomlin never moved on from being in the latter stage of his career when they should have been looking to find his replacement. And that might have cost Mike Tomlin's well, it's not no might. It cost Mike Tomlin potential playoff appearances, well, deeper playoff appearances, because he always made the playoffs every year. But it probably cost him, deeper playoff runs and maybe a possible Super Bowl appearance if he gets the right quarterback. But he didn't want to, ruffle the feathers of Ben. Um, I just kind of figured, I knew it was a lot going on outside of the locker room for Mike Tomlin to not even address the media after he retired. And it's crazy that Ben, out of all people, would say some of the things he said with the skeletons he's had in his closet. Now, I don't know about all the other things. They said there's so many things that Ben has done that's made him a bad person and a bad teammate. They were saying he's basic, usually you one of the two. If you're a bad teammate, you're a good person, or vice versa. But they said Ben is both. And I was thinking, I was like, man, if Mike Tomlin ever releases a book, a tell-all book, I'm sure he has so many rich stories. But there's going to be a lot of controversy behind, um, as the years progress, the Steelers in that era of Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger, especially when Ben Roethlisberger has his opportunity to get into the Hall of Fame. We might see the same thing. I mean, now the Hall of Fame is just really the wild, wild west, because with Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft not being first ballot Hall of Famers, it's clear as day that if you've offended some people, or you've done some things that you thought was covered up, and you ain't cover your tracks good with, making the right people, on your side, then they're going to use it against you when it comes to the voting. And it's not a guarantee Ben Roethlisberger is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's definitely, have some statistical stats to make an argument. But even when Ben Roethlisberger was in the Super Bowl, he never had outstanding performances, and he never was the MVP. As a matter of fact, the Super Bowl that he won, he played trash in when they defeated the Seattle Seahawks when they was in Detroit. That was an ugly game. So, Ben didn't even have, spectacular performances. And Eli Manning, who won 2 Super Bowls, I'm just like Ben, Eli had better performances in his Super Bowl, and he hasn't even got in the Hall of Fame yet. So, that should tell you a lot. But Steelers Nation, this is crazy, man, to see how these stories have came out, and to see how many players are, picking sides. And I know the center, I think his last name is Pouncey. I don't know his first name. I thought it might start with an M, but he basically put out an Instagram post, and he was calling out people like Joey Porter, saying, if you don't rock with Ben, I don't rock with you, and clout chasing is a disease, and we all one call away. So it's a lot of controversy, but one thing you can bet on, Mike Tomlin ain't finna say nothing publicly. Whatever he got to say, he's probably going to say it, face to face to these people, or he going to make a phone call and say what needs to be said. But you're not going to get nothing out of him in the public. If I'm Ben Roethlisberger, I wouldn't say anything, because the more you talk, the more messier it's going to become. And everybody got a podcast now, and everybody want to speak on these microphones, and everything you say gets recycled, and it just can get crazy, man. If I was Ben, I wouldn't say anything, because the truth is going to come to the light regardless, what you've done. And if what they said is true, I mean, you just got to understand, man, that we all got to pass. But I mean, I think when Ben did what he did, if, he was in his younger days, not making no excuses for him, but he seemed to be different as he changed. But I mean, we got to think. Antonio Brown had some things to say about Ben as well, but I know that's not the best example, because he crashed out in a lot of other, organizations as well. But I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. And if everybody say something about you, that's similar, it's got to be some validity to it. But this is a very interesting story, man. If anything else comes out about it, I'm definitely going to speak on it, because I'm thoroughly invested into the Steelers at all times, because that's my squad. But I really hated to hear this news, man. And, one last thing about Joey Porter. He ain't no saint neither. You know what I'm saying? Like, Joey Porter crazy. I rock with Joey as a player, but I mean, he crazy too. I mean, he was basically Draymond Green before Draymond popped up at the NBA. So he could be a hothead. But I don't think he'd just make that up for no reason, at the same time. But Steelers Nation, y'all drop a comment and give me your thoughts about this, man. If you made this far to the video, I want to say thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the GodLevelGenius YouTube channel. Make sure you rock with me on Rumble, Twitch, and TikTok at GodLevelGenius. I am James Virgodo, and as always, be God level. The genius is in you. God level genius.